Well, greetings everybody. We've come to Southport today, Southport by the sea on Merseyside, which it's Sefton Merseyside, and much to the chagrin of the residents when it changed from being in Lancashire to Merseyside, some of them weren't very pleased. As you can see, the station is behind me, and I was very surprised that when exiting the station, and here it is, it was behind me, you exit the station and you're straight into the main shopping area of Southport, which I was very surprised. And with my love of architecture, I mean, this sort of thing aside, and just flipping over here, just look at this. That's a good start off. You can see behind me my TV crew are just getting ready. They had an awful lot of gear to set up this morning, but that's Billy there from Street Workforce. He's clearing the crowds away so I can get on with making my video. And that's Johnny there, he's on the editing. I'll be feeding it live from my new video camera, so sit back and enjoy. All this stuff was a bugger to drag from the car, but they've been great, the lads, and we'll get cracking on the video now. Right, on a serious level, just spoke to a lovely gentleman who was running the street security here. It's a film going to be on BBC One, a series called, or a film called Diesel, and it's featuring Alan West, who, you know, he looked after the Category A prisoners. So look out for that on television whenever it comes. We'll have a little wander down this precinct because there's a nice building that seems to have caught my eye. Well, not physically my eye, but anyway, I'm protective. I have got the shades, and we'll need them because it's a lovely day today. Oh, we're going one beyond. My goodness, these pound shops are getting very excitingly named. Interesting building there, Victoria buildings. Ah, it's an old BHO, it's got BHS on the top that caught my eye. And the Hugo Lounge, this is very, very interesting. And this is the side of the Hugo Lounge with a very unusual balcony arrangement up there. And then it seems some sort of former Tudor thing, but it's got its own security guard straight in from the sea. And then the Christchurch Higher Grade School, quite an imposing building. I must apologise because we're going to end up trying to compete with the sun here. And I don't mean the newspaper. Quite an imposing building. Has a bit of a look of a fire station about it. It seems Alpha runs here, but I can't testify to that because I've not seen it myself. And then we've got Parish Church going on. Nice. So again, apologies, we're in the sun. Although I suspect that's not the main parish church because there's a very imposing spire in the background. Very clever use of a phone box to, well, think outside the box. Oh, good grief. Civil servants love that statement. They're always thinking outside the box and not doing an awful lot outside the box at times. And Corporation Street, which is where we've just come from, it brings us to Southport Town Hall. And I've just spied our first blue plate, which isn't a blue plate, just telling us that yes, it is indeed Southport Town Hall. And here it is. Flags are flying. This is the, I can only assume, the old original frontage, and I've just spied a blue plate. Let's go and have a look at the blue plate. Oh, it seems a gentleman, F.J. Hopper, with Scott's expedition to the South Pole, 1910 to 1913. Well, well, well. He was a mayor's officer between 1922 and 1955. Gosh, that's some hanging on in there. And then we've got something called the Cambridge Arcade, a rather traditional little shopping walk with some cafes and shops. And that is next door to something called the Atkinson. Here it is. Very nice looking building. Town Hall clock. A quite imposing architectural suite this part of the town. I'll explain in a moment why, because it's actually sitting on a very well-known street. Lovely buildings here with Al and his frescoes. And a little pavilion for social use in a lovely little square. This is called Town Hall Gardens, very nice too. Haha, the midday bell strikes. Actually, I told little pork pie there it was a quarter to midday bell striking. Now, we come down from the station, which I've walked maybe, it can't be more than, I'd say possibly 500 meters. And we come out here onto the very iconic, and it was always very, very famous in the first port of call many, many years ago, Lord Street, the very famous street with all the awning covered, the Victoria awnings covering over the shops. And this is it. You see another little waterfall in the distance, but this is the famous Lord Street. It's, oh look, the Scarsbrick Hotel. And it's well known, Southport, for its Victorian architecture. The old bank has now become the Gemini Lounge, as is destined for most of these old. This is a very interesting looking old bank. And as we walk down Lord Street, we can see just some of this Victorian architecture I was referring to, and some of the iconic covered shops that Lord Street is famous for. I was hoping to do something I've never done over all these years, and that's take a stroll down the, I think it's 3,600 foot long Southport Pier. But I'm not going to be able to do that today because it's been closed for 2 years. It's dangerous. So, well, what can you do? If it's dangerous, it's dangerous. But we'll see anyway what we can see around. What I'm going to try and look for is, and wait for this, the only lawnmower museum in the world, which is based here in a place called Shakespeare Street. So we'll see if we can find that as we wander around. Sadly, Beals, which was formerly Broadbents and Boothroyd's, seems to be no more. Victim to, I presume, the economic times. Yes, one can only assume it was quite giant in its day. And this is the Wayfarer shopping arcade. Sorry about the noise in the background. A very traditional shopping arcade. And a shop with gifts for giving. I've not really done anything else with gifts except give them. Sometimes I accept them. And here you can see typical detail of the covered in walkways on Lord Street. Oh, I wonder what trouble Rolex has got himself into now. As I've mentioned on many of my little rambles around, the banks seem to have the majority when it comes to quite good architecture. And then next door to that bank, a right mixed bag of architecture. Very interesting gold balustrades keeping the building up. Well, that part of the building. From what I can see, these were called Albany buildings. Lovely little balconies on the top there, with Dillaras below, or as they used to say in Dublin, Dillaras, and Lakeland. Oh, Lakeland leather. I thought it was the Lakeland kitchenware. I was going to go in and buy some spatulas, but I ain't using leather shoes to cook with. And yet another fine building turned into a cafe. And I do love the old-fashioned couple who probably would never have had a burger in their life. A fair number of fine old buildings to let. And here we have the Masonic buildings above shops, and another interesting little one here. I see all covered up against the pigeons and the seagulls, which is understandable. As I said, also to let, although this one is under offer. And there's a nice gentleman playing his thumpy stuff for us all, for the benefit of the public who don't want to hear it. Well, as I walk down Lord Street, I'm on the lookout for the Prince of Wales Hotel, which I'm led to believe by family members attended some event there many moons ago in the black and white days, and it was dreadfully posh to go there if invited. And I did speak to a local, and she said that it's not what it was, so not to get too excited, so I won't. This is quite nicely preserved, but again, to let. The King's Place, I'm not too sure the fish is under the patronage of His Majesty King Charles. I might be wrong. And as I say, these covered over awnings, well, they're not awnings, I mean they've been here for donkey's years, since the Victorian days, still continue the length of Lord Street that we're on. Again, sadly, another one here that's empty. Hopefully it might all come back to life. Oh, that's an unusual little restaurant all the way up a little alleyway. And then fortune favors this particular place. It's the Bold. Although I'm not quite too sure what this little horse, as I was saying before the traffic lights interrupted me, I'm not too sure what that little horse thing has to do with things. Oh, Sinclair's looks very svelte. Again, no doubt weekends and holidays probably packed to the gills, which is no reason why not. I wish all these establishments were packed to the gills. Well, we're running out of Lord Street, so I can only assume that the Prince of Wales Hotel must be in the opposite direction. So we'll go and have a look in a few moments and also take in the seafront. That little last video snippet, I don't understand it. It's a glorious sunny day, and yet a youngster of, well, I don't know what it is, he had a stupid tattoo on his arm, so I presume he's meant to be over 18, sitting there with a hat on and his hood up. What is wrong with these kids nowadays? Punch Tarmies seems to have some sort of Irish connection. I think given the current political situation, punching kneecap might be a far better idea. As people walk by, I seem to be making them titter. I have no idea why. Still some lovely dwellings along Lord Street, I must say. Very pleasant. Although that seems to be for sale and under offer. Yes, Towles Buildings, so it very much is, by the date 1895, a very Victorian town. Goodness me, patience needed. That's not the sort of thing you expect to see in anything medical nowadays. I might have got this wrong. Winners Chapel. This was the very imposing church steeple I spied when I came out of the rail station before. And another lovely garden on the left-hand side. Well, it's on my left-hand side of Lord Street. It includes, according to the legend, well, written down legend that is on the red plate, you can see there the Mermaid Fountain. And here she is. She's not exactly fountaining at the minute, but it's a lovely little garden. Very pleasant garden. And leading up to a major monument that we'll go and have a nosy at. Yes, it's the Lord Street Gardens, to put an official title on it. Oh, how tickled I am that it was officially opened by Ken Dodd in 2008. That is the area improvements. The building's all 3-storey fine Victorian structures, or 4-storey if you include the ground floor. And the former post office as well, also quite interesting. And we've arrived at this little memorial area, complete as is the case for any seaside town with seagull guards. Yes, and this monument seems to be on both sides. Apologies, we're going into the sun for a moment. I'll spin quickly with an obelisk and a further archway on the other side. That's a very poignant message. Look upward, standing, mute, salute. And we shall do that, complete with vapor trails at the top. And this area fittingly called the monument. So without much more ado, seeing as we're by the seaside, let's go and find some seaside. Incidentally, Southport is noted for its miles of long sandy beaches, and very unusually it's one of the few places in Britain where the tide doesn't actually come in towards the seafront wall. It stays away a little bit, unless of course it's a very unusual high tide. So there's areas where they don't actually get the sea lapping up against the wall, which is quite unusual. Well, you can tell we're nearly by the seaside. You can tell we do like to be beside the seaside. We've got some amusements. Can't have a seaside without amusements. Now that's what I like to see. Unbridled enthusiasm for the season ahead. As I've said on many occasions, they've got rent and rates to pay and wages to pay, so they deserve all the support they can get. Gosh, a very nice fronted amusement arcade with a little bit of a blue plate on the front. Let's have a look. G.B. Bertie Samuelson, pioneer British film producer. He was born here. I bet not to a slot machine though. The main town we've walked up from gives way very, very speedily to some traditional living accommodation, Victorian, although I do suspect that a number of them are probably bed and breakfast establishments. And there's Victoria keeping her eye on this Victorian resort. Oh, I think someone has stepped in with a bit of chalk. I wonder, is she amused? And here we are. Less than a 2-minute walk, well, a little bit more because I dilly-dallied, from Lord Street is Silcox, who seem to be the local amusement people. Funland at Southport Pier, which, as I mentioned to you before, sadly, we won't be able to have a go at. There's a lovely traditional carousel. How delightful. This is a monument to the British national pavement diver. I know, I'm being silly. Well, that's very interesting. It seems to be an exercise leisure place with 3 pools, fun, fitness, family friendly, and 3 gyms. But I do spy there's only 2 entrances. Unfortunately, they need a 3rd one because they need to have gentlemen, ladies, and Sam Smith. And this is the Marine Way Bridge, which somebody who can spell, plainly not a TikTok watcher. Sorry, had to get that dig in. Come on, Sefton Council, just get a few bob out and replace those letters. You have to have a little bit of brutalism, even though it's a Victorian town. I'm sure it does its job. And there, just to prove that it is a marine way, we've got some water, as they say in Cleckheaton. I see there the beginning of the pier, and sadly, it is cut off. There we are, at least you've seen the start of the pier, so it's not all been in vain. They're still continuing to refurbish it, although 2 years in. Strange message there telling people to litter. I would have thought no litter please, or place litter in bin rather than tell people to make litter. Sadly not the effect it has on my increasing girth. We're being told to do nuts. So if I've got to keep clear, could somebody explain how I get in? Goodness me, here's a real bit of traditional old Southport. Oh, plainly they've seen how I play golf then, so I won't be allowed in, because, well, my biggest handicap are the golf sticks.
L.P. Hartley's book, The Shrimp and the Anemone, seems to have been given a makeover, namely the shrimp and the anemone seagull.
Well, here is the Crazy Golf, fulfilling my way of not spelling the word crazy correctly. And, oh, very unusual to have a swingers club in Crazy Golf, but, well, each to their own. This is the famous inland, well, I'm using that term very loosely, the famous inland lake that separates the main town from the seafront. Very, very popular in the summer, nice, safe, no tides coming in. And there's the pleasure beach just over in the distance. And here's a view of the walk that we're walking. Well, of course we're walking it, if it's called a walk, and I'm walking. Mr. and Mrs. Canada seem to have their brood with them. How lovely. One of those adventure playgroundy things that, when he was young, my son always used to make a beeline for. A gaggle, or is it a flock of mixed swan and flamingo boats in front of Pleasureland. And there's where we've just come from with the bridge-imacated thing. Oh, I see what the local means. It's quite an extensive area, the King's Gardens here in Southport. And the sea's that away. Goodness me, this thing must plug a very large bottle. I'm not very impressed with the retail park backing onto the seafront. And there's the pier, the inaccessible one that we couldn't access because it's inaccessible. And as I was warned, the sand just stretching out as far as the eye can see to the sea. And the beach goes quite a distance, several miles up in that direction. And as I was told, quite looking at this here as the proof, if these white chalk markings, they haven't disappeared, so they wouldn't have been made this morning. So presumably, like they said, the tide doesn't come in to the seawall. Sadly, not an awful lot to see, but then sand is sand, as I mentioned to you before. So I think it's time to head back into the town and let's see if we can find this lawnmower museum. SS Therapy, I've not heard of that ship before. Goodness me, thought I was in Swanage as opposed to Southport. Wow. They've even got a model railway village. I don't know if you get compensation if the trains don't run on time, but sadly, not open today. As they say in Scouse, it's Scarsbrech Avenue, but I'm not too sure what the connotation for red rum is. My own fault for not doing a bit of research. I suppose 12 hours, not too bad, just a fiver to park, but still it's going to NCP and not to the council directly. And if they want to welcome people to the promenade, we'll just offer them free parking and they can come bring their families. Yeah, so typical of the likes of NCP. The app price, presuming you have a phone and you're not an elderly person, is vastly lower than the standard price. Yet nobody manages the car park, there's nobody here, so you're just paying for a space. It's just parasitism. And then a nice little sweep of typical Victorian buildings that you'd find facing the seafront. We seem to have hit the streets with the, how can I say, fast food establishments that seem to be attracted all to one street. Oh, tic-tacky! That presumably attracts people who just sit on their phones all night long and don't speak to each other. Wonderful old traditional sweet shop, which seems to be titled Coronation News. Sorry, King Charles has been on the throne for a little while now. Catch up, guys, catch up. Ah, this is an ex-theatre. It has ceased to be. It was the Garrick, but it seems they are refurbishing it. And I should think so too. I think that might be termed Art Deco style, presumably. Very nice looking Masonic Hall here for the West Lancashire Freemasons who meet here. As I go searching for the Lawnmower Museum, it's traditional leafy suburb of Southport. Well, it's part street, but it doesn't tell you what the other part is. Oh, how wonderful. Angels with a Z, just what we needed. Well, we're on Shakespeare Street, and what do we find? the lawnmowerworld.com, and yes, as I told you, British Lawnmower Museum, which I've just checked. Sadly, it's closed this time of year on a Wednesday, but it was worth having a look anyway, if nothing else. Keep off the grass. Oh, oh no, that's Darth Vader, isn't it? Well, never mind. It says open all years, but not open today. They must have a staff shortage or, well, a bagging and whatever shortage. Never mind. We tried. Well, having missed the Lawnmower Museum, it having closed on me before I got into it, found this lovely little snackery run by two lovely ladies. And beautiful sandwich. And there we go, fully refreshed. Right, onwards and forwards to the train station. Well, somewhat upset as I was heading towards the very famous Floral Hall in Southport to learn that it is no more. It has been knocked down, razed with a Z to the ground. Although I wonder why they say razed, because you think it would be sort of lowered to the ground, wouldn't you? But another great institution just gone. Well, I wasn't expecting this as I walk back to the station. Bit of a shortcut. There's the station there. But this is the sort of thing you see in the movies, like that Spanish series on television, wrong side of the tracks. Well, okay. I would have thought the Temperance Institute, being next door to the Southport Tavern, was not exactly very good placement. In fairness to Southport, the retail centre is like anywhere else. Dead ugly buildings mixed in with, you got the usual suspects. There's Marble Place, which seems to be a more modern shopping arcade, and then what they call the Proof of Retail Life Shop, Pandora, in a quite unusual building. So you're stuck in the middle of all the rest. Just to formalise a few facts with you, it was in 1974 that Sefton Borough Council was adjuncted, or whatever the word is, to Merseyside, and it lost its Lancashire status, and that's when people started getting annoyed, because people in Southport, they're a bit posh, you know, as they say. And it's also the golf club capital of England is Southport, just to let you know. It's got the highest concentration of championship golf clubs in England here, than the most famous being the Royal Birkdale Golf Club. And that, people say, golfists say that's probably the best in England. And yes, we missed the 3,635 foot long grade 2 listed pier, but if it's closeted, it's closeted. There's nothing we can do about it. And since 1924 they've held the annual Southport Flower Show here, but as I say, you can't do it internally now in the Floral Hall, because that's gone to the great big flower pot in the sky. And then just finally, a few of the famous personages from Southport. The extremely funny Lee Mack hails from here. AJP Taylor is also from here as well. My dear pal, I'm sorry, I'm have to look down. My dear pal Bernie Flint, who I don't have to look down from, he's from here. Mark Almond, he from Soft Cell, you know, the one who should realise that he's not a teenager any longer. Hilda Ogden from Coronation Street, that's Jean Alexander, she hails from the town. There's also Tony Jordan, he has written 250 episodes of EastEnders, presumably at least half of them involved Phil getting rid of somebody in them. The Victoria Cross winning scientist Harold Ackroyd, he was also born and bred here in Southport. And you've got Marcus Waring, a judgy type person from MasterChef, he hails from Southport. And finally, there is Rosemary Nicholson. She's an MBE. She was co-founder of the Museum of Garden History in London, and she's from the area. There's plenty more. There's lots of sort of racing people and football people and other sporty people, but that's enough. Well, thank you all for joining me for my ramble around Southport. Sorry for the disappointments that I found, which translated disappointments for you. No Floral Hall, no pier, miss the Prince of Wales Hotel, although somebody told me it's just really nothing much to miss at this stage. And there you have it. So again, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Look after yourselves, folks.